Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with a presentation that will form part of a series that will look at what life was like in Nazi Germany. I think the first thing to be clear about is that in important ways life did change for everyone in Nazi Germany. The majority of Germans didn't live in fear of the Gestapo. It would be wrong to think that, even if many did. But all Germans had to be aware that things had changed. They had to be aware that they were living in a one-party state. The emblems of the Nazi Party, the swastika, Hitler's portrait, the uniforms of the SA and the SS were seen everywhere. Maybe not in a threatening light, but they were certainly highly visible. And the ideology, a militaristic society, a racial community, separate spheres for men and women, quickly changed society. But in this presentation, I'm going to focus on the ways in which the Nazis changed things for four groups in the economy: big business, small businesses, workers and farmers. And I'll consider the reasons behind the Nazis' initiatives. But whether the changes made these groups better or worse off, I'll leave for another presentation. So let's begin with big business. The Nazis instigated a 4-year plan that prioritised iron, steel, coal and food, and synthetic alternatives were produced for the likes of petrol and rubber, as well as cotton and coffee. The clear aim was to boost rearmament, as well as to stockpile essential raw materials. There was also a drive to make Germany self-sufficient, autarky. Hitler did not want Germany to be dependent on imports, especially food and raw materials. If war began, as this had badly affected Germany in World War I, when the British blockade starved the German people of food and its army of military needs. As the plan's name suggests, Göring was given the task of making Germany self-sufficient within 4 years. Small businesses and shopkeepers, along with farmers, still accounted for more than a third of the German population, and they were attracted to the Nazis. The middle class constituted almost 67% of Nazi Party membership, so they were clearly important to the Nazis. But what did the Nazis do for small businesses and the middle class in general? Well, businesses were seized from Jews and handed to Aryans. The Nazis wanted to drive the Jews out of the economy, and if they could, out of Germany. They also banned trade unions or any political representation. Don't forget that both the KPD and the SPD were banned. The Nazis wanted everyone working for the national community. Remember, fascism was seen as a third way, putting the national community before the wishes of capitalists and socialists. But the 4-year plan and the drive towards an economy geared towards military needs meant that consumer goods weren't a priority. So, what of the workers? The Great Depression was still the dominant factor in most people's lives. In an initiative very similar to Roosevelt's New Deal in America, the National Labour Service was set up in Germany. It organised jobs in public work schemes, building houses, schools and hospitals, water conservation schemes, afforestation projects, building autobahns, the German motorways, and extending or building new railways. These were all major building programs involving labour-intensive work, and the Olympic Games meant more jobs as well. The Labour Service Corps provided jobs for unemployed men aged 18 to 25. They spent 6 months in camps and received a small amount of pay to send home. It became compulsory in 1935, and those felt to be work shy were rounded up and packed off to the concentration camps. In 1939, with the pressures of war, the scheme was extended to women. So big was the organisation that it was a major employer itself, with more than 40,000 paid officials, nearly all of them party members. The Nazis had risen to power, promising to fix unemployment. They had to deliver on that. And in doing so, they would begin their preparations for war, because the German economy would need to be put to work in order to get Germany ready for war. A massive rearmament program created more jobs. Jobs were created in armaments factories, and as well as weapons, it also meant equipment and uniforms, so jobs in the textile industries too. The Nazis also created the Luftwaffe and massively expanded its navy, all of which helped to boost the iron and steel industry. And more manufacturing jobs meant that coal mining increased too, as Germany recovered the Saar coalfield. National service or conscription, lasting 2 years, was another important factor in reducing unemployment. It was introduced in 1935 for all men between the age of 18 and 25. Conscription very quickly increased the size of the army to 550,000. Remember, the Treaty of Versailles had restricted it to just 100,000, and by over 1 million by 1939. Every conscript from this point onwards was a figure taken off the unemployment register, or else not adding to it. And so to our last group, farmers, the first group to vote Nazi in significant numbers. Farmers were encouraged to increase yields, and food prices were controlled. The Reich entailed farm law protected their farms from banks seizing them, while the Reich food estate guaranteed sales of their produce. This is part of the Nazis' drive for autarky. We must remember that civilian deaths in World War I attributed to the British blockade were estimated by the Germans in 1918 to number 763,000. And though this figure was revised down to 424,000 in 1928, it was still a high figure. And there were food riots in more than 30 German cities during the war, while at the end of June 1916 there was a 3-day strike with 55,000 German workers taking part. In January 1918, 400,000 workers went on strike, demanding peace, and within 48 hours the strikes had spread to 6 other major cities. Hitler did not want this to happen again. So, the changes to 4 broad economic groups for you to consider. German youth and German women will be the focus for future presentations, and whether these groups were better off or worse off will be the focus of my next presentation when I come back to life in Nazi Germany. If you can't wait for that, check out what I have to say in my ebook on life in Nazi Germany. There's always more useful detail in my books, though I would advise you to get the compilation book. It's much better value. But for now, it only remains for me to thank you for listening. Good luck with your studies. Keep persevering. It's worth the effort. Cheers.